And this being the first day of October, happy Obamacare Day. This is rollout for the Affordable Care Act. And apparently, to celebrate, the federal government has shut down. And joining us now to talk about that is the Congresswoman from the 44th District. And, of course, we spent some time together doing our town hall on Syria. And I would like to think that the power of that town hall actually averted military intervention in Syria. That's how powerful it was. It's a pleasure. Welcome back to the show, Congresswoman Janice Hahn. Good morning, Congresswoman Hahn. How are you?
Good morning. And, hey, I agree with you. You know, everybody that said it was our threat of military action that drove us towards a peaceful resolution, I disagree with them. I think it was the fact that the American people were not on the side of the president on this one to go in and bomb a country that hadn't bombed us. So I think that town hall played a big part in us having that
I'm glad
diplomatic resolution.
I'm glad we see it that way, Congresswoman. Now let's start right there, because all the opinion polls that have been taken suggest that the American public is not crazy about the Affordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare. Now, with that said, it's the law of the land. It passed the House, maybe in an ugly fashion, but it passed the House. It passed the Senate. The president signed it. The Supreme Court ruled it was constitutional. It's the law of the land. And to me, that's our system of government. And if the country doesn't like it after it's experiencing it, then they have the option of changing it either legislatively or by electing members of Congress or the Senate or a president that would change it. But to shut down the government over a piece of legislation that was legally enacted, to me, is not our system of government.
Well, and I think the same polls also said, while the American people are confused or unsure about this, they in no way wanted us to shut down the federal government over the Affordable Care Act.
In fact, that's the one thing.
That's what's upsetting to me.
The one thing that the polls showed that the American public liked less than Obamacare was a government shutdown over Obamacare.
Right. I think, and that's what's really. It was a sad, sad night last night at 12:01 when we shut down the government over this issue, and we know, as on the same day that the exchanges are opening up across the country and giving people an opportunity to see for themselves what this Affordable Care law actually means to them.
We're talking with Congresswoman Janice Hahn. You're there. You're in Congress. This is how I see it. I think John Boehner has a problem, and the problem is he's got a very, very powerful Tea Party caucus within the Republican coalition. And he's not particularly popular with those people, and therefore he's got to throw them some red meat, and this is what they demanded of him if his speakership is to continue. Now, I don't know if it's going to continue anyway, depending on how this plays out, but it really looks like a power struggle within the Republican congressional delegation.
Yeah, they're really having a civil war in the Republican caucus. It's so evident. And there's, anywhere from, 30 to 40, depending on what day it is or what issue it is, that really is this really right-wing extremist group. And we know that John Boehner today, any moment, could put on the House floor a resolution that just says, let's continue funding our government at a specific spending level, and we would have enough votes with the Democrats and some of the more reasonable Republicans to pass it. So we could end this government shutdown any moment if John Boehner was truly the Speaker of the entire House and not just playing, as you said, to this very limited Tea Party faction.
Yeah, but as you know, politics, political. This is more than this is. I think if he were to do that, he'd be committing political hara-kiri, and speakers tend not to want to do that. On the Democratic side, we also have Harry Reid, who has largely refused to allow these things even to come up to a vote, and there's politics in that too, because he's trying to protect Mark Pryor and some of the vulnerable Democrat senators who are up for re-election. So but meanwhile, the American public is looking at all this and saying this. We're cannon fodder in this party warfare. I mean, that's all we are. The American public is just caught in the middle, in no man's land, while this stuff goes on.
I agree, and I think we have the lowest approval rating, Congress does, I think, that we've ever had. And you're right. The American people know that there's no other other walk of life out there where you get everything you want. Not in your own family, not in your workplace, not in a marriage, not in a relationship. You never get all that you want. You have to compromise. The problem is this country has voted for and sent to Congress people who came here specifically feeling like they had a mandate to not compromise.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Although I will say, and I know time is short here, but I think that somebody, maybe you could do this, should introduce a law saying that in the future, any government shutdown, Congress, the Senate, and the President and the Cabinet doesn't get paid.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. When I think about all the people who are really essential around here, who who are not going to get a paycheck, I think you're absolutely right. It might make us think twice before voting to shut the government.
Hey, listen, thanks so much for coming on. A Twitter account at @rep_Janice.